All right, welcome aboard everyone to the 2 o'clock webcast. We're going to be talking about the contact center migration to the cloud. And we are joined today by Sheila McGee-Smith of McGee-Smith Analytics, President and Principal Analyst, and also by Ray Gallagher, who is the VP of Customer Care at HotSchedules. My name is Murph Krajewski. I'm the VP of Marketing at Sharpen. Pam Hines is sitting directly to my left. She's our COO, and she'll be with us for some Q&A time at the end of the broadcast. Speaking of which, if you have questions along the way, you should see a little question and answer panel there on your GoToWebinar control panel. Feel free to submit those questions. I'll be watching and gathering those as we go. And just as a reminder, this is a part 1 of 2 for this webcast series. We'll give a little bit more information about that part 2 towards the end of the broadcast. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sheila McGee-Smith to kind of take over the helm here and get us talking to Ray Gallagher of HotSchedules.
Thank you so much. Whatever your name is, Murph. Hi.
Hi.
So McGee-Smith Analytics is working with Sharpen to create this small webinar series that explores the benefits that companies are already realizing by moving to cloud-based contact centers. As Murph said, this is the first of 2 webinars. The second will be in 3 weeks. So as a company that has been a leader in providing premium customer care, we're excited that Ray Gallagher is here to talk about HotSchedules experience moving to the cloud, and specifically with using Sharpen. The webinar is scheduled for 30 minutes. We're going to include time at the end for Q&A, but let's get started. Ray, who is HotSchedules?
Hey Sheila, thank you, both yourself and Murph for including me on this, and thanks to everyone who's listening in. Look forward to sharing our story, but also answering questions that you have about a migration to a cloud contact center solution. But before we jump into all that, who is HotSchedules? We thought it would be helpful just to give you some context about who we are and what our structure looks like, just as you go through and hear our story. So number one, we're a global provider of software for hospitality, restaurants specifically is our focus. And we were founded in 1999 as a SaaS or software as a service, business to business model. And lately we've been really focusing on having an extensible cloud platform for all of our applications to integrate and be hosted from, but also to have third-party applications plug in. So, the type of software we provide: labor management, e-learning, inventory back office, anything that the restaurant needs to run their business, especially when it comes to we call it the back of the house of the restaurant. So we don't dabble right now in the front of house solutions like host or wait management, table management. We really do all the back office stuff, which if you look at a restaurant's P&L, that's 50% of their cost is the software that we provide, managing their labor, managing their food and inventory costs. So we're in about 100,000 restaurants and hospitality businesses globally in over 60 countries, and we have approximately 3 million end users that could contact us for support. If you look in if you look up HotSchedules in the Apple, iOS store, the App Store, we're often number 1 under the paid apps for applications, which is pretty darn exciting to be in that spot. So we have 600 employees globally, and we have, of that 600, 100 of those employees are contact center agents of some sort. We call them technicians.
Well, excellent. That's a great start to sort of putting into context how we're going to talk about what your contact center does. So those 100 people that you talked about, what are they doing at HotSchedules? Who are they talking to?
So, our technicians, they serve anyone that calls in or that emails in, anybody from a dishwasher at a restaurant, for example, to a CEO could potentially contact us. And what we focus a lot and we care deeply about are the customer interaction, but we really focus in on quality, training, on the front end, but then quality assurance, holding our team accountable to what those standards are. And, and then most importantly, we measure it through CSAT. We leverage Zendesk, which we migrated to in 2016, which all of our ticket interactions go into, including our phone interactions. And we on top of that, we also we troubleshoot really anything that could come in for our software. So it could be a login issue, it could be product advanced troubleshooting, or one of our many integrations that we integrate to restaurant point of sale. So any of those calls could come into our queues. And while we do, phone is a significant portion of our interactions, we also leverage an automated phone system, or an IVR, that we have custom built as well, which handles a lot of, since we do have 3 million end users, any one of those folks could call in and utilize that IVR for self-service as well.
So interesting. At first I was thinking, what is it that, a dishwasher or a cook might be calling into HotSchedules for? But it dawns on me as you were speaking that the schedule that they work from and gets updated comes from your system.
That's right. And so, what we try to focus on is heavy self-service, and we like to leverage all of our solutions, including Zendesk and Sharpen, for that, to help us improve, the customer experience, get them their answer faster. But yes, anybody that could potentially have a problem could call in, but we've done a lot over the years to scale up. We've kept our staffing relatively flat for the last 3 years, but we've over doubled. We've gone from 1.5 million to 3 million end users, and really kept the same level of staffing. And we attribute a lot of that to the software, and especially the cloud-based software that we've been using over the last few years.
So that's a great lead in to the next part of the webinar, which is, at some point in the recent past, you had one type of solution and decided it was time for a change. So what were some of the issues that HotSchedules was experiencing with the solution that they had in place?
So where do I start? With an on-prem solution, which we've had in place, the specific one we implemented back 2008, Interactive Intelligence, through Avtex, which was the support partner for that version of Interactive Intelligence. So we've been on that for just about a decade, and before that we had other various on-prem solutions as well. And so for us, we were starting to get really in the business of managing that infrastructure, scaling it up, updating, hardware as needed. We also had to go through several, I call them very painful upgrades with our partner. And we ultimately, when I say our partner, one of our biggest pain points was we didn't feel like we were a partner. We felt like a number to a very large, company, and we didn't quite feel like we were getting that sort of white glove support, but also just feeling like a human and a partner with them. And we kept getting, when we would come with kind of questions or issues, we would get brought back, scope of work and professional services fees, and we just really wanted to kind of talk through things, and it was very much treated like a business interaction and not a partnership. And so those were some of the biggest things, among many others. Poor integration with our CRM with Zendesk. We had to have a self-hosted server to make that work and have all our user data, migrated in from other systems. We didn't really have good extensible APIs with that partner, and it was not modern. We had a lot of difficulty with working from home, or our, some of our third parties that plug into our systems. They had to require VPNs to utilize our phone system, and ultimately, at the end of the day, the agent experience, the supervisor and manager and contact center director experience, if you will, we were not happy. The the user interface is obviously very dated, even with upgrades. There was many sort of roadblocks and things that we wanted to get done, and it just felt like a dated solution that I couldn't easily pick up on my mobile device without paying a ton more money to try and have that sort of sent and filtered out, or maybe have I call it like a hacked version of a cloud monitoring window of our real-time statistics. I mean, all of that was very difficult to deal with, and you almost had to have a PhD for our IT team to kind of work through this. And every time we called in for support, it was very much because we had a custom IVR and some of our unique needs, it was like starting fresh every single time. And I could keep going, as you could tell.
Okay, so the one thing I'd like to highlight, Ray, that you talked about was that you had moved to Zendesk in 2016 and felt like you didn't have a great integration there, and that you had to have a server on site to do that. And what I find as I work with companies like yours is that once a company has moved to a cloud CRM or trouble ticketing system, and they see the value that cloud brings to that part of the business, they look with a new set of eyes on the premises-based contact center that they're sitting there trying to make it work with. And so do you have this sense that perhaps the Zendesk being in the cloud may have been one of those drivers?
I think it was, because we definitely got more and more comfortable with cloud, the resiliency, the extensibility, the platform play, if you will, and all of the ways to integrate. So that, I think, opened the door, to your point. And when we, as we were year over year, we kept sort of feeling like we needed to make a change, but we were kind of fearful of that. And we can talk more about that, but that's definitely getting past that. And first step, great, yeah, let's get a great solution in place for ticketing, and then we would, kind of led us to that point, to what you just said.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to turn it back to Murph, and he's going to run a poll question here.
Yeah, thanks, Sheila. So in light of what Ray was just talking about, some of the pains that they were experiencing with their old systems, end-of-life products, et cetera, I just wanted to kind of gauge, let me launch a poll there. You'll see it in your GoToMeeting control panel. Just go ahead and tick any boxes that you might happen to be experiencing yourself: end-of-life products, expensive ProServe, trouble integrating to your CRMs, or maybe it's something else, or maybe you really don't have any problems and you're already in the cloud and loving it. So I'll tell you what, Sheila, I'm going to let this poll run for a little while, and I'm going to hand you the mic back. You guys just keep on going.
Okay, I would say, so you're going to come back later and give us the poll results?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say we could fill about a minute now and just talk about, between Ray and I, which of these do we think is going to be the most prevalent? Okay.
I like that even more.
Yeah, and I just keep this in line, and I would say, current systems reaching end of life is a pretty big issue in the market right now. And one of the things that I have seen is, remember the big change out that everybody did in the year 2000, right? Everybody made sure everything was current. And then we had a couple of financial slowdowns in 2008, and then another one more recently. And people are turning around and realizing they have systems that they may have had for, 10, 15 years. And that those vendors are now cutting off those services. The other thing I think about end of life is, as much as premises solutions are still available for cloud contact center, if you look at the investments that vendors are making, it's in their cloud solutions. Cloud is the next generation of contact center solution, and so reaching end of life is because the investment's not going there. So I'm going to go with that being the big one. Do you have a vote there, Ray?
I definitely agree with you, and I think that's, at least for us, that was one of our largest pain points: managing the cost, managing, really having to keep somebody on staff that could go and maintain this stuff, and then having the budget to go and pay for these upgrades and implement them, and if not, you have to use a third party to help you with those things. So just all that difficulty, and I think over time you start to observe the improved reliability of cloud, and really now it actually turns out in hindsight that it's been more reliable than what we had on our on-prem solution.
Wow. Okay, so give us some results here.
Yeah, it looks like we got about two-thirds of respondents have said that 75% say it's difficult to integrate with their CRM or their other system. And there's a close tie for second with expensive pro services, and current systems are reaching end of life.
Excellent. So how many people do we have people who are saying they were already in the cloud, or is that why that's why they're here?
Yeah, we've got, it looks like no problems, we're already in the cloud is represented, but very small numbers.
Excellent. Okay, so let's keep moving and talk about that migration process and how HotSchedules made their decision.
Yeah, so I'll get that kicked off. For us, I mentioned it earlier, but getting past just the fear of change, it is comfortable to stay with what you have as long as it's working. We were over the years experiencing more and more issues, and more, sort of escalations with the vendor, and more of that. Oh, well, we can provide you professional services, and oh, by the way, you got to upgrade this, and you're going to need new hardware to support this. And so I think enough of that pain. We got past our fears, and we actually started to get real serious about looking. And Sheila, to your point earlier, having a cloud-based ticketing system like Zendesk CRM, that really helped us build confidence in the reliability and extensibility of it. So we got past that fear. We actually got serious. We started to pull together a business case. What are our pain points? What does the economics of the situation look like when you move to the cloud? And what we ended up finding was that there was a significant upside once you get past that migration. Your ongoing costs are lower, and your pain is also reduced because all those things we mentioned earlier. So we built our business case. We presented it to our senior leadership team. We got the approval to move forward with an RFP, and we did some diligence on, like, what do those questions need to look like? What are our needs? Who are we? What is our landscape? And then what are our minimum requirements? What are the nice to haves? And what are other things that we want to see in the future product roadmap? And when you go with a cloud solution, getting those future updates is much more viable than an on-prem solution that has these major sort of waterfall upgrades. So again, I could get into all the benefits, but that's certainly things that we did. And so we did develop a matrix, and we started that process.
Let me break in for a second, Ray. As you went to make this change, did you look at both premises-based solutions and cloud solutions, or did you just look at cloud for the latest decision?
We were just looking to the future and looking forward to cloud, and that was our requirement. We wanted to be out of the hardware business.
Excellent. And I hear that a lot. So you were saying, what were some of the factors that drove the shortlist of companies that you looked at?
So definitely, cloud first. And that's an interesting thing, because there are some vendors out there that are kind of converting, or they're sort of a hybrid cloud, and you really have to start digging in to understand, what does that really mean? There are some that have partners that do cloud contact center, and maybe the back end. So there's a lot of I think there's a lot of detail and education that you kind of have to do during this process. And there is some literature out there, and there's definitely some websites that you can leverage. But ultimately, it's kind of just understanding what is your core need. And when we started looking at the solutions out there, we did a ton of research. We started taking meetings, and we shortened it down to a top 5 list. And those are the ones that we really got serious about, getting quotes and understanding, can they meet our core requirements. We had to.
One of the things that you and I talked about was that you have business users. You remember you said you had 600 employees, and only 100 of them are contact center. So talk to me about how that requirement for business users fit into this driving the shortlist.
Yeah, great point. So of our 600 employees, 500 are not contact center agents, and so they need a business phone. And one of the requirements was we were trying to actually reduce the amount of vendors that we had, and we didn't want to take on a contact center solution that didn't have a fully featured business user setup. And so that was one of our. It actually did knock out quite a few vendors in the selection process as we were isolating them down. And so we wanted something that was obviously cloud-based, that was easy to use, that could easily forward, but the user interface was modern. And it kind of checked all those boxes that we needed to check. We have a sales force, obviously, as many companies do. We have senior executives. One of our things was, like, when we go to pilot, we want to make sure that anybody can install this, pick up the phone, and just use it, and not get stuck on a complicated UI. So those are definitely some things that helped us get down to the short list that we established. So, yeah.
And then, we have here on the slide why Sharpen. But let's back up to the final 2, because as I recall, you did a proof of concept or live pilot with 2 different companies.
Yeah, and number one, I just want to say I highly recommend doing a pilot, because so much can come out of the woodwork during that. You kind of understand, is this going to be a true partner? Is this, what does their support look like? How easy is this to implement and make config changes to admin, troubleshoot, all that stuff, kind of comes when you get your hands dirty and really jump in. True colors start to come out. So I highly recommend doing a pilot of at least your top 2 if you can do that. I know it takes time and resources, but it was highly valuable to us, and it actually helped us make that final decision. But for us, it was TalkDesk with Dialpad. Now that actually kind of broke one of our requirements, but we did find with TalkDesk is the user interface for the agents and the supervisors, like everything looked really solid. We had seen good kind of feedback on the product in the market, and so we were kind of willing to bring in Dialpad as partly helping us with our business phones, especially for our sales group. And so that was going against Sharpen in our 2-vendor pilot.
Okay, and you chose Sharpen. So let's look at some of the reasons that you did and how you're using Sharpen today. So how long have you been a Sharpen customer?
So we officially signed up, it's been almost 1 year. We signed up in June, and we had a requirement on our previous on-prem solution with interactive intelligence and Aptex. We had to be off of that by October. In the meantime, from when we signed in June of 2018 with Sharpen, we then had to work with them. There was a professional services engagement to actually build out our custom IVR. And so that was kind of being done over those couple of months. We wanted to give extra ample time for testing, because that was a very important piece of our go live. We went live in October of 2018 and have been live obviously ever since.
And in which departments is Sharpen deployed?
So the department that I'm directly responsible for serving is customer care. We have over 60 agents within that team. We also have teams in other offices around the world, including, we have other divisions, we have accounting groups, we have several different teams. So we have about 100 total contact center agents using the system, and again, 500 business users. So we went live in October, and one of the most pleasant sort of surprises that the day we went live, the automated phone system, that IVR, that custom built IVR that's integrated into one of our key applications, worked day 1 with really no problems, and we had no sort of business continuity issues with flipping the system over to Sharpen from our on-prem solution. And so that was a major win in our sort of implementation, and everything with the integration with Zendesk was flowing. And there was certainly we can get to the lessons learned. Nothing is perfect, but to go live on day 1 like that, and without having any major issues, outages, or sort of missed requirements, that was a huge win for us.
So before we get to those benefits, what interaction types do your technicians, and that's what you call your agents, what kind do they handle? And is it the same as what they used to handle before on the premises-based system?
The interactions are the same. We are starting to see some differences in the channels and the sort of like what that pie chart looks like. But we're about 50% phone, voice, and that obviously all flows from Sharpen, integrates into Zendesk using the API. So there's this instant integration. Ticket pops come up. We have custom fields in Zendesk where we take some of the Sharpen data and we actually pipe it in, and that is great for our analytics within Zendesk, because we can mishmash phone and standard ticket data. But to answer your question, yeah, 50% is phone interactions, and then we see we're also very heavy on email. Email's 40%, and then we have our Zendesk Help Center, which is about 10% of our ticket interaction flow, which ends up turning into an email interaction once it's initiated with us.
Excellent. So let's move on to the benefits. And generically of the cloud, but specifically of the Sharpen deployment that you've done. So what do you think the benefits are? How would you describe those for the technicians themselves?
So, the updated, user interface, it's a modern, obviously cloud-based solution. So the design, the user interface and flow, it's all very elegant. They kind of implicitly understand how it's leveraged. If you could look at some of the on-prem solutions and that dated software, there's just a huge difference in that experience. But one of the biggest things that I don't think we were, sort of planning out initially, but just the ability and the ease of working remotely, working from home, has been a huge win for us and our team. We have that flexibility now. It's much easier. In the past, there were so many hardware requirements and VPNs and a lot of hoops you had to jump through, so we just kind of avoided it. And now having that ability to do it, we kind of leverage it for rewarding our team, for top performers. There's a lot you can do with that. And also during disaster situations, it's much more effective to be able to go remote as needed. And so we have that kind of baked into our process, and there's a lot of I would say increased engagement with our team and happiness with our team because of that. Our leads have better analytics and dashboards, real time. We can go mobile on those things. We can easily kind of modify that information, and so the optics and what the data readily available has significantly improved, and it's easier for those leads, supervisors, managers to make modifications and get what they need to run the shift more effectively. And then for our company, we see obviously a lot of benefits because our users were happy with the switch. It's an easy to use solution, and we didn't have really any snags with that, but the upside of where we can go with it in the future is also sort of what we're excited about.
Excellent. So what advice do you have then for companies that are considering deploying a contact center in the cloud?
So yeah, get past the fear for sure. Define your business case, your needs, your goals. And one of the things for us that helped us be successful, you have a great project manager that can help you. If you don't have one, totally understood. That's a resource sort of driven thing. But we happen to have an incredible project manager. Sharpen partnered with us incredibly well. They paired us up with an implementation onboarding. They call it a CSM, but they essentially are with you for your life cycle. And that was huge, right? Because our team and our PM could partner end to end. So that having a solid project manager, Sharpen will define the deployment plan, but you've got to work that into your own business practices and process. We did do some things that I think initially we tried to do many more things than we did previously on our on-prem solution on day one. So we actually did peel back a few of those things. Some of the kind of advanced features, routing and things, we were like, okay, hold on, we don't have to do all this day one. Let's take baby steps here. Let's cut over with what we absolutely need, and then let's build on it. And that's what we've been doing, and we're very excited, for the kind of what's to come.
Absolutely. Again, what you did with starting with almost something that was like kind of baseline with what you had before, but then having the ability to easily start bringing in those newer features, that's pretty common with what people do with the cloud. First, they said, okay, let's just sort of baseline, but then we have the freedom and the ability to much more quickly innovate on top of that. So what do you think is next for your relationship with Sharpen? Any things you're looking at in the future?
Yes. So now that we're settling in, we're very happy with where we are. The Sharpen's doing a great job of actually giving us quarterly business reviews, saying, hey, here's what you're using, here are your stats. This is what we see, with our other customers and then in the market, and here's kind of the areas that we'd like to see you start to kind of to work on. So some of the things that we're excited about are more of the omni-channel options that Sharpen provides, and so live chat and SMS, text-based ticketing, and all of that obviously integrating into our Zendesk CRM. That's on the horizon for us. We're also looking to more deeply use the agent quality assurance within Sharpen. There's some very cool features that you can really segment recorded calls, provide feedback, have a nice rubric, and score them out, and all that's built into the system. And then one of the things that Sharpen, I don't think gets a lot of credit for, but they've kind of pioneered this agent experience metric, and it includes several different metrics of the system. The quality of the interactions, the agent's rating of the system, and how they're satisfied with it or not, and other key metrics for handle. They kind of bring all this together into this sort of index score, and we haven't gone there yet, but we're excited about being able to use that in the future, because we think that again, your agent is happy, you're using the system, providing great service. That's a great indicator of your overall customer experience.
So I would agree with you. When I first saw that agent effectiveness score, that when it was first presented to me about a year ago, it looked different than anything I had seen before, and an easy way to sort of balance the efficiency and the effectiveness, but also that sort of empathy that you want from an agent. So I'm going to turn it over to Murph to see if we have any questions.
Yeah, we've actually got several questions. And let me just say thanks for the kind words about agent experience score. We're pretty proud of it. So one question came in here for Ray. What type of reports do you provide to show server productivity and scheduling? And as a follow-up, do you do any training for new hire reports?
So I'm actually kind of hearing that question as kind of more of the HotSchedules software and business practice. But as far as as that goes, short answer is yes. Do you mind reading the second kind of part of that question? I just want to make sure I interpreted it correctly.
Yeah, he asked any training for new hire reports.
New hire reports.
For
Well,
reports or reports about new hires?
That's what I'm taking it as, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One way, I'll answer it is so Sharpen is obviously baked into our employee onboarding for our new technicians, and there is there's sort of like a checklist and a process for getting them up to speed and trained, and then we have several reports that we leverage to monitor progress, right? So like when an agent first, just kind of the standard contact center metrics that you kind of keep an eye on for a newer agent, we have all that in Sharpen. We have a great agent view for our kind of shift management, but also great insights reporting for kind of looking at those key metrics over time and seeing how they're trending. And again, we pipe a lot of this also into Zendesk to bring sort of a whole picture together. Because an agent, for us, phones is half of their sort of job. The other half is other tickets they may pick up, other channels. And so we like to bring that all together and look at it. And because Sharpen's platform is very extensible and integrates very well, we've been able to do that.
That's great. That actually kind of bleeds over into another question that got asked about CRMs and integrations. And sounds like you're able to put HotSchedules software together with CRM and ticketing software together with communications and kind of make it all work together, which I think is the end goal there.
That's right.
One other question that did come up, this is a huge topic, it's its own webinar, but any thoughts real quick about security when you were looking at a cloud system?
So, we actually are, we've gone through SOC 2 compliance and other, other different PCI, PII. There's a lot of different sort of security things. We haven't gone the full ISO stuff yet, but, with any vendor, we have a set of kind of questions that we have to get answered and core requirements. And so that obviously we went through that same as we do with any vendor, and obviously security is part of that. And so there's definitely a lot of like for agent provisioning, we use single sign-on, but we have all that sort of managed with a lot of that's kind of managed with our IT team. So I'm not the expert. I won't pretend to be, but I will say we had the checklist. We understood what our core requirements were and the things that we look for in a vendor and a partner to ensure security and obviously scalability as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to pipe in real quickly that the customers that I work with, the companies that I work with, typically they find that the cloud can be safer than what they're able to keep up with themselves. So think about something like PCI with constantly changing regulation. It's nice when there's somebody who's doing that for a lot of companies instead of every company having to do that on their own, which sometimes can happen in a premises-based environment.
Yeah, great thoughts. I'm looking at the clock. We're already a few minutes over time, so I'm going to move us ahead here. Just a reminder, this is part one of a two-part series about digital transformation in the contact center. Part two will be the follow-up to this conversation from kind of the vendor side of what it looks like to support customers who are trying to make that move. Again, Sheila is going to be joining us for that, along with our own Pam Hines, talking about those things. That registration should be live now on our website at sharpencx.com. Those of you who signed up for this webinar will also receive a follow-up email. The invite will be in there. And of course, there's the whole social media promotions that you likely used to find part one. So they'll be included there as well. One last thing we're going to do as a thank you to you for joining us today. Sharpen has put together an RFP template for just what kind of questions you should be asking when you're thinking about making the move to another contact center platform. So just some things that we've compiled over our experience of helping other companies through this process. And then Ray also shared their matrix for decision making with us, and we sort of included that into all of that. So we'll be delivering that in that same email that I referenced just a minute ago in the next, I don't know, day or so. So with that, I want to say thank you, Sheila, for joining us today. Thank you, Ray, both of you for your kind words and great conversation. I think there was a lot of good insight in all of this today. Thank you to all of you who joined us today. Join us for part 2 on May 23rd, and have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Murph. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Bye-bye.